All right, let's talk about one of the biggest economic stories happening on the planet right now. India's absolutely incredible growth surge. But this isn't just a story about big, impressive numbers. It's really about what happens when that kind of massive ambition runs right into the messy, complex reality of rules, regulations, and the real world. And let's just kick things off with the one number that's got everyone talking: 8.2%. That was India's real GDP growth in the second quarter of this fiscal year. That is a staggering figure, and it puts India squarely at the top as the fastest-growing major economy in the world. So the big question is, how did we even get here? So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with those big picture numbers. Then we'll dig into what's actually fueling this growth engine. After that, we're going to ground it all in a real-world case study, the massive new Noida airport. Then we'll look at a regulatory snag it's hit. And finally, we'll zoom back out to understand this bigger challenge of balancing massive ambition with the rules of the road. Okay, first up, let's unpack that headline growth. We're going to see what the data is really telling us about the health of the Indian economy. Now, I want you to just look at the acceleration here. It's not just that the growth is high, it's that it's speeding up so dramatically. We're talking about a jump from 5.6% to 8.2% in just a single year. That's the kind of momentum that sends powerful ripple effects through the entire economy. And here is an absolutely crucial piece of this puzzle: inflation. Consumer prices are incredibly stable right now. In fact, inflation hit a record low of just 0.25%. And it's simple, right? When prices aren't shooting up, your money goes further. That boosts confidence, it gets people spending, and it acts like rocket fuel for growth. And look, this isn't a story that's just being driven by one single thing. The surge is happening across the board. We're seeing more people joining the workforce. Participation is at a 6-month high. Our factories are busy, with industrial production growing at 4%. And India's goods and services are in high demand all over the world, with exports up almost 5%. It really is a picture of an economy firing on all cylinders. So what in the world is behind all of this? Let's jump into our next section and see how specific policies and some really big strategic shifts are fueling this incredible growth engine. Well, the government's really been pursuing a multi-pronged strategy. You've got things like the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme, that's PLI, which is all about boosting manufacturing at home. Then there's major tax simplification with GST 2.0, and a really assertive push on the global stage with new free trade deals. And maybe most critically, there's a big push to bring private money into sectors that were, for a long time, completely closed off. And there's probably no move bolder than this one. For the first time in 60 years, India is letting private companies own and build nuclear power plants. I mean, this is a monumental shift. It's being driven by the insane future energy demand that's coming from industries like AI and data centers, which need clean, reliable power 24/7. Now, the technology at the very heart of this new push is something called the Small Modular Reactor, or SMR. The easiest way to think about them is as compact, factory-built nuclear units. They're designed to be cheaper, safer, and you can deploy them way more flexibly. They're perfect for powering, say, a specific industrial park or a brand new data center campus. They're a total game changer. But this ambition, it isn't just about policies and power plants on a spreadsheet. It's actually taking physical shape in steel and concrete in these massive infrastructure projects that are designed to connect India to the rest of the world. And that brings us right to our central case study. We are talking about the Noida International Airport. It's a brand new greenfield project that perfectly embodies India's ambition to become a global hub for aviation. It really is a symbol of this new era of super fast development. But this is also where the story gets a little complicated. Because as this massive project gets closer and closer to completion, it has hit a pretty significant regulatory hurdle. And this creates a fascinating tension between the drive for world-class infrastructure and the strict rules that are supposed to govern it. So here's the issue, straight from the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, or BCAS. They're saying that the airport CEO, because he's a foreign national, is in violation of security rules. And these aren't just any rules. They're specifically for brand new airports, rules designed from the ground up to protect critical national infrastructure from day one. Okay, so the crucial point here is this bureaucratic distinction. It's a little nuanced. An individual might get a broad general security clearance from the Ministry of Home Affairs, but the BCAS, they perform a completely separate and very specific vetting process to make sure every single aviation security rule is being followed. And in this case, the two seem to be at odds. It's a classic example of where fast-paced execution runs right into the fine print of a regulation. So let's zoom back out for a second. The situation at Noida Airport isn't really just about one executive or one project. It's actually a perfect illustration of what you might call growing pains, the kind of issues that pop up when you're going through this level of economic transformation. And it raises this fundamental question, one that every single fast-developing nation has to face. How do you make sure your own systems, your rules, and your institutions can actually keep up with the sheer speed and scale of your own success? And this isn't some isolated incident where systems are getting stretched thin. We're seeing a really similar challenge in a completely different but just as crucial area, the very data we use to measure all this economic growth. The systems for collecting statistics are also struggling to keep pace with the reality they're supposed to be measuring. For instance, a recent IMF review gave India's national account statistics a C grade, and it pointed out some of these exact growing pains. The issues they cited are pretty technical, but they're important. Things like an outdated base year for GDP, which means the calculations might not fully reflect today's economy, or relying on older price indexes and other statistical quirks. These are exactly the kinds of foundational things that need updating as an economy transforms. Now, the good news is that these challenges are absolutely being addressed head-on. The government is already deep in the process of a major overhaul, updating those base years, bringing in modern data sources like real-time GST filings and online price data. And the plan is to roll out a full, new, more accurate system in 2026. But to put this all in perspective, India's chief economic advisor has been really clear that while the methods are being improved, the existing data is consistent. He says comparing growth from one year to the next is still valid. It's a comparing apples to apples. So the trend, that incredible growth, is real, even as the tools to measure it are being sharpened. And this brings us to the final and, I think, most crucial question. India is on a very clear path to becoming a $7.3 trillion economy by 2030. The ambition is undeniable, the momentum is real, but as we've seen, from airport boardrooms all the way to statistical offices, maybe the greatest challenge ahead will be managing the friction between that relentless ambition and the necessary rigor of its own rules. Hey, if you found this explainer insightful, do us a favor and share it with your network, and of course, subscribe for more deep dives like this one. We'd really love to hear your thoughts, so let us know what you think in the comments.